All right. Immigration and population. There are 7 billion people on the planet right now. Now, I hear in a lot of in a lot of media streams, people talk about the fact that in Western cultures, our birth rate is lower than replacement rate. That means that there's fewer kids being born than there are people, so the population in Western cultures is going down. I often hear this framed as a bad thing. It's not. It's not a bad thing that the population numbers are going down, because frankly, 7 billion people on this planet is more than this planet can comfortably sustain. I think everyone can recognize the absolute devastational effect that human beings have on the environment around them. And it's just a simple consequence. The more people that exist on the planet, the more damage that we do to the planet. So this is one of the main rationales that we get for bringing in immigrants and bringing in people from around the world into Western cultures, is because they typically have higher birth rates in the Middle East and in India and in Africa. Their birth rates are above 2.0. They're above replacement rate. So we say, well, we need more people here. No, we don't. We don't need to propagate cultures across the planet that have a tendency to have more children than what they need to replace the population. That will accelerate the population increase across the world. And again, like I've said, that's not helpful. And there's no detriment to humanity to finding an equilibrium at a number that's more sustainable. Call that 3 billion, call that 4 billion people. Whatever is the number that is sustainable on this planet, so that with advanced technologies as far as clean energy and whatnot, that we have a population base that can sustain that. And the fact that this is happening naturally in the first world is a great thing. That's a wonderful thing, because if it didn't happen naturally, if it didn't happen just from the consequence of being in an advanced developed society, then at some point we would have to enforce it, and nobody wants that. We say things are all well and good now, but let's say 50 years down the line, there's 15 or 15 billion people on the planet, and and we're running out of water, we're running out of air, we can't feed all these people, we can't house all these people. And people are dying of horrible diseases left, right, and center. In this scenario, you may very well be forced with the proposition of enforcing birth rates and legislating that people aren't allowed to have babies over a certain number. Nobody wants this to happen. Nobody wants to be in a situation where the government is telling you how many babies you can have. So it's a good thing, like I said, that in developed societies and developed Western cultures, we are voluntarily reducing our population numbers, and like I said, it will find an equilibrium. Okay, People will stop having babies in Western cultures. The population number will go down, but eventually they'll find a place where there's a proper balance between population saturation and what the population can accommodate. One of the biggest factors in human beings in Western developed cultures reducing their population or their birth rate simply has a lot to do with the fact that we're more knowledgeable about these things, the fact that we can prevent pregnancy and prevent birth through contraception. Before we start opening up borders and saying everybody go everywhere, we need all the cultures around the world to at least be at a point where they're at only replacement rate. Okay. So when a culture is not expanding anymore, then yeah, let's have people move all over and whatnot. But until that happens, it seems to me that encouraging immigration and relocation to first world countries, to westernized countries, of people that have a tendency to produce way more kids than is required to replace them in the next generation, is going to contribute to the overpopulation of the planet, is going to contribute to basically the destruction of the world. There's simply no way of getting around it. There's no way to disconnect the environmental damage that human beings cause and the relative population that is on the planet. And I'm not suggesting population control at all. I never want to see population control enacted by a government. Okay. However, I am an advocate of limiting acceptance of those cultures into your country until those cultures can evolve to develop a more sustainable birth rate amongst their populations. Now, to this end, to the end of maintaining a population equilibrium, this is not to say that we should not ever bring in immigrants or people from other countries. My proposal as far as immigration goes will essentially be the population or the number of immigrants from a specific region in which we accept into Canada will be directly proportional to the number of Canadians that want to live and move to that region. Okay, and this in and of itself, this will maintain Canada's equilibrium, at least within the world in terms of world population, so that we don't have the same influence on world population as Afghanistan, for example, whose their birth rate is something like 5.0 to every 2 people. I mean their rate at which certain countries repopulate is just way too much and unnecessary and sustainable. Nobody needs 5 kids. The best of the best should be able to come to Canada in proportion to the number of Canadians that are choosing to relocate to India. Okay, if every year 10,000 Canadians want to move to India, then that means that we'll make spots for the best and brightest 10,000 Indian people to move to Canada. That seems fair. That seems pretty reasonable to me.